Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight on Our News, House Speaker Halson Moultrie overturning a former speaker's ruling. What you should know about voter registration for the next general election. And a little later, a closer look with Lady Sharon Wilson. Good evening and welcome to Our News. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, House Speaker Halson Moultrie has restored the full powers of the Public Accounts Committee. Moultrie making the move in Parliament this morning just days after he quit the Free National Movement. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Speaker's move to quash the decision made by his predecessor is the first ruling handed down by Moultrie since he became an independent member of Parliament.
Is the ruling of this chair with respect to the decision made by former Speaker Dr. the Honorable Kendall Major on the scope and powers of the Public Accounts Committee made on the 13th day of May 2015. It is the ruling of this chair that that decision is now overturned and set aside.
The 2015 ruling came as the PAC was investigating the Auditor General's report on the Urban Renewal Small Homes Repair Program. The report revealed that 11 contractors were paid $171,000 for work that was either incomplete or never done. The report also lists a litany of issues discovered in the issuance of contracts, contractor requirements, and the lack of competitive bidding process associated with the program. Major's ruling was met with shock in some quarters. Major had directed the Public Accounts Committee to stay its hand in relation to any investigation surrounding the Auditor General's report into that program. He said because the report was not tabled in the House of Assembly, the PAC could not take cognizance of the report.
The oversight function of the executive branch has been diluted and diminished over the years by principally two areas.
Moultrie also insisted there are factors that have contributed to the dilution of the legislative branch's oversight function.
Administrations have refused to be answerable to the legislature. This is undemocratic and unconstitutional.
The House Speaker said the PAC will now have the power to investigate and review government expenditure, compel witness attendance without government intervention or advice, and to call ministers to attend hearings, among other things. Moultrie said on Wednesday that the details of his decision would be presented to the House for those who want to examine the legality and the constitutionality of it. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, more than 186,000 people are registered to vote in the upcoming general election. The Parliamentary Registration Department today outlining changes to the process. Kyle Joaquin has more.
Some changes, but also some things not so new as the Parliamentary Registration Department ramps up its efforts to get more Bahamians registered to vote. Parliamentary Commissioner Lavardo Duncanson seeking to give the assurance that if an election were to be called today, the Parliamentary Registration Department would be able to smoothly and effectively carry out the process. There are 186,763 people on the permanent register. This includes those from the 2017 register and those who have registered since then. The department estimates 20 to 30,000 people will be added to the register by 2022.
Persons registered for the 2017 general election and who have not relocated to a different residence for a period of 90 days or more shall remain registered as a voter entitled to vote at an election on the continuous register.
There were 181,543 registered voters in 2017. The department announced an expansion of the voter registration exercise that is comprised of 3 phases, where eligible voters can register at various centers throughout New Providence, Grand Bahama, or any family island. It begins on Monday.
Phase 3 will comprise of pop-up registrations in locations such as Gambia Village, Adelaide, and various workplaces, taking into consideration safety protocols that exist.
Now those seeking to register must be able to show proof of citizenship, be 18 years or older, not subject to any legal incapacity, and also be a resident of a particular constituency for at least 3 months. But with the government seeking to go digital, no decisions have been made as yet regarding online registration.
And at the appropriate time, we will move towards an enhancement of the overall voter registration exercise and transition along the lines that society has progressed as it relates to the use of digitization, the various platforms that exist. And so certainly that is on our agenda.
And if you still have your current voter's card with a photo attached, well, that will still be used. Duncanson explained that the new act calls for it to remain in use until a decision is made to change it to perhaps a biometric ID card.
And so we will maintain that until such time as a decision is made to transition towards the biometric card. But at this time, we are continuing with the use of the paper card, the purple card.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Meanwhile, at least 2 Free National Movement members of Parliament are hoping to hold on to their seats that they won in 2017. This after the Prime Minister's announcement that the FNM will not be running all of its 2017 candidates. Bethany McDermott reports.
Are you expecting a nomination from the FNM?
Most certainly.
So you're expecting to get a nomination?
I am.
As the 2 major political parties begin ratifying candidates ahead of the next general election, speculation has mounted over which FNM incumbents would find themselves on the chopping block after Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis revealed that some FNM MPs who ran in 2017 won't run this time around. Minnis said it's the party's plan to put forward a mix of new entrants and incumbents. Our News asked a few FNM incumbents if they expect to be renominated.
I'm expecting to make myself available for the will of God. God's will is what will happen to me.
So are you expecting to run? Will you run next election?
Morning, sir. Morning, how y'all doing?
We'll see.
We'll see. But will you be offering yourself?
We'll see.
Are you proud of the work you've done so far in your constituency?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Progress, more progress as we move.
Do you think if you do run again, are you confident you will snatch the seat again?
Yes.
You are confident?
Definitely.
East Grand Bahama MP and FNM Party Deputy Leader Peter Turnquest recently revealed that Dr. Hubert Minnis advised him that he will not be renominated. House Speaker Halson Moultrie also revealed that Minnis presented him with an offer in exchange for his agreeing not to seek renomination. While we may not see those named next to the torch on Election Day, North Eleuthera MP Ricky Mackey is feeling quite confident about another run.
I have very little doubt. I think I've had an impact on North Eleuthera. There are some things that we have been able to accomplish.
Central Grand Bahama MP Iram Lewis has also said he expects to be renominated. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
In other news, on the heels of BPC's announcement that its exploratory well in Bahamian waters failed to produce oil in commercial quantities, the Environment Minister says the government has not made a decision on whether it will allow future exploration. Giorgio Bain has that.
Environment Minister Ramal Ferreira suggested today that a national discussion is needed on oil drilling to determine if the Bahamas will move forward with future exploratory drilling.
As a people now, we must decide, and we will decide, the direction we go in. Mr. Speaker, I think the one critical thing that we have to face coming out of this is whether or not Bahamians want to know the answer to that question, which is, do we possess oil in commercial quantities? And if the answer to that is yes, how much of and what it's worth?
On Monday, Bahamas Petroleum Company announced that its exploratory well in Bahamian waters failed to produce oil in commercial quantities.
The whole issue of oil is an emotive one. This government has already made a commitment and has already said on previous occasions that we are opposed to offshore or marine oil exploration. That's on the record.
The Environment Minister slammed those naysayers who spoke out against oil exploration, but provided no alternative way of pumping money into the economy.
I read in the newspaper a lot of different countries and states in the United States offered their opinion as to whether the Bahamas should continue with oil exploration, but I didn't hear any of them
speak of offering offsets to our economy that would equate or be the equivalent to the value of what oil would contribute to our economy.
Reporting for our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Well, partly cloudy skies outside the R News studios tonight. Here's Greg Thompson in the Weather Center.
Thanks, Christina, and a happy Wednesday, everybody. A beautiful day around the islands today. Temperature-wise, we got into the 80s once again. Low to mid-80s, 84, 85 was the official high here at the capital. Right now, we're settling into the mid-70s, 74 outside our studios with just a few clouds. Your winds are light out of the southeast at 5 knots. Feels like temperature around 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Lovely day around the islands. Sunshine all over the area except across the central Bahamas and the southeast. We saw some patchy clouds moving across with just a few small showers associated with that. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, a family of 5 displaced by fire. Their story after this.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
A husband, wife, and their 3 children displaced after a fire destroyed their Coral Lakes home. Jared Higgs has their story.
44-year-old Telly Simonet, a married father of 3, says the home he built for his family was more than just a place to live.
Peace. Peace from the crazy world. That's peace.
Last Friday, Simonet says he and his 3 kids were getting ready for a movie night at their Coral Lakes home. It was meant to be a fun evening with popcorn and conch fritters, but disaster struck.
Next thing I know, my kids ran upstairs, quick. Daddy, 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 fire. My people through the hallway from my bedroom and the door right here. All I could see was black smoke coming up quick.
He put his children on the balcony and jumped out of the house towards his tractor.
When I got to the machine and I started the machine, it started. I said, Father, thank you. So I drove the machine back by the balcony. I put the front bucket up. I climbed back up there on the balcony with them. I put them in the bucket. I jumped back down to the tractor. I took them off. And I just watched the house burn.
Simonet, a heavy equipment operator, says he doesn't know how the fire started, but the loss was devastating. He says he spent years saving to build the house out of pocket, and it wasn't insured. He says he'll miss the tranquility the home provided.
When I come home, come in the backyard, I can see my children up and down. I can sit outside and watch them play, watch them on the swing. Just a peaceful environment.
Simonet's family moved in less than 3 years ago and we're still making improvements to the home. He says his children, ages 5, 7, and 13, are taking it especially hard.
My kids was crying all last night because they started to feel the loss of it. I mean, they used to come in here, be playing in the yard and just doing stuff around here. But last night, it was a little rough for them, so you had to just nurse them to bed last night.
Simonet is determined to rebuild. A pair of waste management companies have donated dumpsters. You can help him by donating to the Simonet's Fire Relief Fund at JBR Building Supplies. You can give the Simonets a call at 544-6154.
The father of 3 says the lesson is be more prepared. However, he says he's ready to rebuild his family home and his peace of mind investment. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis tabling 3 bills in the House of Assembly related to his government's promises of accountability and transparency. The Public Debt Management Bill, the Public Finance Management Bill, and the Statistics Bill, along with the Public Procurement Bill, which was tabled last year, make up a compendium that Minnis says will modernize public finance management.
They complete a compendium of financial and statistical legislation that is critical to the advancement of sound fiscal management and evidence-based decision-making in the Bahamas.
Dr. Minnis says the Public Finance Management Bill is meant to address weaknesses in the Financial Administration and Audit Act, while the Statistics Bill seeks to establish the Bahamas National Statistical Institute, a semi-independent entity intended to replace the Department of Statistics. Still to come on our news, a closer look at the life of a two-time female Senate president. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. They say behind every successful man is a strong woman. However, Lady Sharon Wilson has carved out her own place in Bahamian history as a former acting chief magistrate who went on to serve as Senate president twice. Tonight, Vonique 2 takes a closer look.
She has excelled in the classroom and the courtroom. But these days, Lady Sharon Wilson's happy place is this room, a greenhouse filled with vegetables planted with her own two hands.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites right there. It's one of my absolute favorites. See that all lined up over there. And of course, here we have all the varieties of lettuce.
5 years ago, the accomplished attorney, former acting chief magistrate and Senate president would have never imagined spending mornings and weekends in the dirt at her Eastern Road home. But now she grows everything from her prized bromeliads to lettuce.
I'm just so enjoying it, like it's my newfound love.
So how much time would you say you spend in the back here?
Every morning, I think I'm in the garden. I mean, I get up and I used to just get up, and to me it was enough to get up and walk. When I get up, I walk, and then I have to come and check my plants. And I could pretty much lose myself out here on Saturdays.
Wilson's eyes light up as she gives me a tour of her expansive property, which is bursting with every Bahamian fruit you can imagine, from juju and plums to soursops and sugar apples.
I think my goal was to have all of the fruits that I grew up with as a child, to be able to have them in my yard so that when my grandchildren come, they could come in and, find the jujus, find the custard apples, the mangoes, the tambourines, the whatever,
Do they raid the tree?
Yeah.
Lady Wilson has come a long way from the little girl who grew up on McCartney Corner. Sitting in her living room as husband and prominent businessman Sir Franklin Wilson looks on, the proud mother of three shared with me how it all began.
All of us were poor, especially by today's standard, poor persons. But parallel to my corner, there was what we call one single property that had many houses. And for the most part, they were like 1 rooms and 2 rooms.
Few children from that community ever made it to college, but Sharon Lockhart was determined to be different. She started off teaching English at Jordan Prince William before taking a job at her alma mater, St. John's College.
It was a wonderful part of my life. Being a teacher, I loved it. I wanted my students to do the best.
Despite the fulfillment she got in the classroom, Wilson developed an interest in the courtroom, eventually becoming a magistrate. In fact, in the late 80s, she moved to the drug court during a dark time in Bahamian history, the drug era.
I was there to do my duty no matter what. Needless to say, I would always say I came into the world without a price tag. And I will go back to my maker without one.
Did anyone ever try to determine whether you got a price tag during your time?
Not to me personally, but I am told.
At one point, she says more American women appeared in the drug court than Bahamians. She remembers a terrifying moment driving alone on a busy highway to an event in Florida and seeing protesters lining the streets with placards and pointing at her. At first, she thought they were mistaken.
Then I looked at the placards. Get our sons out of Nassau jail.
Oh.
I said, they do mean me. Because they recognized me as the magistrate. And that was a scary moment. Were you alone? I was alone.
Wilson would go on to serve as acting chief magistrate before returning to private practice, but her star continued to rise. She recalled the day she got the call to serve as Senate president.
One day I'm in Kelly's shopping, and my cell phone rings, and I look down. Prime Minister. And and that's how I got the call. And it was, like I said, something that I totally did not expect.
But her passions aren't limited to law and plans. Lady Wilson has also built an impressive art collection in her home, all by Bahamian artists she admires.
This one of my favorite artists. I think, you can see almost the soul of the Bahamian people in his work. That's Max Taylor.
Another favorite is Chantal Bathel.
I just love her work. I love everything that she reflects. This is also Chantal's made its way as far as the chair, because I haven't hung it as yet, but it's a woman in prayer.
Despite all she has accomplished, Lady Sharon Wilson says she still thinks of herself as that little girl from Wolf Road. I asked her how she wants to be remembered.
By my children as a loving mother, by my grandchildren as a doting grandmother, by my husband as a dutiful and loving wife, by persons who I've had the privilege to serve in the divided community, as someone who did her best.
Reporting for our News, I'm Vonique Tude.
Thanks, Vonique. When we return, preparing a Valentine's Day dinner for two at home. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news, and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Beautiful skies ahead. Greg Thompson is back in the weather studio with a look ahead.
Thanks again, Christina. Our second look at weather tonight is being brought to you by Lactogen 3 from 1 year onward, distributed by Lightburn Trading Limited. Satellite view around the area, just another gorgeous day. Lots of sunshine, high pressure remains in charge, generating an east to southeasterly flow. A little breezy across the central and southeastern islands. Some patchy clouds moving across that area. We could see a couple of small showers tonight through tomorrow as that high remains in charge of our weather. Boating conditions, if you plan on doing any boating, all areas, we have a caution flag posted for you guys. Winds will be east to southeast at 15 to 20 knots. Seas will be running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Tide is presently high. Will be low at 105 in the morning. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a great night, everyone. Christina?
Thanks, Greg. Well, an at-home dinner for Valentine's Day doesn't have to be boring. Tonight, Jillian Gray cooks a sizzling salmon dinner for two in the Showman E-Bistro kitchen.
Valentine's Day is sure to be different as the COVID-19 pandemic has shaken things up, but providing an alternative to the restaurant scene is Showman E-Bistro. We're in their kitchen today with the Hinzies, who's teaching me how to make the perfect Valentine's Day dinner. The Hinzies, who have been together for more than a decade, say cooking has become a family affair for them.
People will come over and be like, "Oh, that's so good," and I feel like, yes. When really it's just me cooking the meat and throwing a Showman sauce on top of it.
So, Ms. Lindsay, what has been your favorite meal that she's cooked from one of these Showman boxes?
Is this a trick question?
No?
All of them. Okay. All of them. I don't have a favorite.
On their menu for Valentine's Day is salmon with basil pesto and Parmesan crust, paired with asparagus wrapped in prosciutto, along with garlic mashed potatoes. Now, after seasoning the salmon, wrapping the asparagus in prosciutto, and dusting the veggies with a bit of salt, pepper, and olive oil, our prep work was done, and it was time to fire up the stove.
It's all in the recipe, you know?
Ah, I see. So which one of you is going to be cooking this on Valentine's Day?
Well, it seems as though Mr. Hensey will be.
She's putting you in the hot seat.
So we're gonna stir this for 2 minutes on each side, right?
And as the salmon sizzle, the Hensey shared how they met.
You know, there's always my story, which is the right story, and then his.
So long story short, she saw me at the studio and it was all uphill from there at the hill.
A healthy coat of basil pesto and parmesan, and our salmon was ready for the oven. As our asparagus and salmon cooked, Devania and I made the garlic mashed potatoes. Less than an hour later, it was time to plate.
This is a hearty helping of mashed potato, and I love it. So we're not going to a 5-star restaurant. We're staying at home, and this is why we staying at home, because you go to a 5-star restaurant, but here we are having. Okay, let's see.
And then came my favorite part, the taste test.
Listen to that. It's a nice crust on there. And it's nice and moist, like you said. So guys, if you want a meal like this, hit up Showman E Bistro this Valentine's Day. Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
Now that looks delicious. Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.